Okay, we have another trade. Caris LeVert is going to Cleveland, and the Pacers are getting Ricky Rubio's contract. Hopefully, Rubio will be all right with his injury. And then the Pacers are getting a whole bunch of second rounders. A 2022 Miami second, which is probably not going to be that great. A Rockets second rounder this year, which is effectively a first, so that's really good. 2027 second for the Jazz, which who the hell knows what Utah is going to look like in 5 years. And then there's this lottery protected first this year for the Cavs, which the Pacers would get as of right now because Cleveland is good. In a way, they pretty much got two firsts, even if one of them's technically a second, but it's going to be like the 31st pick or something. Obviously, I'll talk about LeVert on the Cavs in a second, but is this a good return for Caris? I mean, you're getting out of the Rubio money and you're getting a bunch of picks, and picks are nice. Would it have been cool to get maybe one young player back for LeVert who you could feel just somewhat encouraging about? Or even someone in their mid-20s who could help whatever the next version of this Pacers team is going to look like? Sure, at the same time, I mean, you definitely were not going to get Isaac Okoro out of this deal. I don't think Chetty Osman would have done a whole lot for you, and then after that on this Cavs team, I just don't really know who would have been moving. And we have to assume that the Pacers sniffed around the rest of the league and saw what they could really get for LeVert, and given LeVert's injury stuff and also just his inconsistencies as a player, I mean, let's be honest, outside of that one stretch he had with the Nets, it's been a bit of an up and down ride for the guy. Again, a lot of that because of injury, but it's still been up and down, right? As I say this, he just had 42 points against the Bulls. So I could picture teams not lining up super duper hard for LeVert, but for a team like Cleveland, where there is, of course, the void of Colin Sexton, the void of Ricky Rubio, which is now replaced with LeVert, they will hope that Caris can provide them a little more ball handling, because I do think at times, especially with Rubio out, Darius Garland has to do a little more than you'd really like. I mean, he can handle it, but you don't want one dude doing everything in an ideal situation. Of course, he has also missed the last 3 games with a back injury, and hopefully that is not a big deal. The Garland-LeVert thing will be interesting because, let's just be honest, Caris LeVert is not a natural catch-and-shoot guy. I think he can attack off the catch. I think he's most comfortable running pick and roll, running isolations, and I think there is a good version of that where you perhaps have him moving off ball initially to where it's a little easier for him to get downhill. You can have him going at mismatches at times, and it can be like another weapon for you. The bad side of it is if he's a ball stopper. You would hope through Jared Allen as well as Evan Mobley screens that can free him up for some stuff. You've got your Kevin Love pick and pop potential. I mean, a lot of the things that Garland runs, you can run a decent amount with LeVert. He's not as good as Garland. He's not as quick and all that, and he's also not shooting over 50% from mid-range. But we've seen LeVert on his best days do that. I mean, the dude just dropped 42 points against the Bulls. As far as LeVert's playmaking, there was a stretch, I think it was like 3 years ago now or so, where it seemed like he could have grown into a really, really good passer who's making plays and those split-second decisions off of screens and all that. I don't want to say he's regressed, but it hasn't gone to that level. That is okay. You don't have to be a great passer, but we at least want you to notice the skip pass there a few times or the dump-off pass to Jared Allen or whatever it may be. Defensively, I would assume that Cleveland will remain as awesome as ever. The other questions we have are Caris and his injury history. Of course, the foot injury is what scared teams off initially. It was a foot, I believe, right? Recently, it's been a back thing. He also had a calf thing about a month ago. Could be a big deal, could not be, we'll see. The other thing to talk about is Caris's next contract, because after this year, he's got 1 year left. And you think about what this means for Colin Sexton, who also has his restricted free agency coming up. I mean, I suppose it's possible you can have Darius Garland, Caris LeVert, and Colin Sexton all on the same team, but are we sure that's what's going to happen? Of course, Garland is a keeper. We all know that. That's obvious. And we would assume after trading for Caris LeVert, you're going to want to hold on to him for a bit. So we'll see. That's all I got there. To throw some money at you. So the 2025 season is the most interesting one probably, because by then Garland's extension will kick in and there's a decent chance he will be on a max contract for that season. Let's just be honest here. So that's what, $27 million. You've got Jared Allen, who will be making 20 at that point. If Caris LeVert is re-signed and he's making like 18, 19 a year, At that point, you actually are not that far away from Mobley's extension as well. We will also assume he will be on a max contract when he's eventually extended. Of course, Cleveland still has a decent amount of time to make whatever moves they want to make, but this team is already beginning to shape up into what the final product is going to be. Luckily for them, the foundation of Garland, Mobley, and Allen is so damn good that that's totally fine. It does also pose a bit of a question for Isaac Okoro and what his extension could look like, and I mean, we'll see there. But yeah, man, Caris certainly likes the ball. He's not a natural shooter, so it'll be up to Cleveland to get him acclimated just right and share some more ball handling duties with him and Garland, and I think that's a healthy, I don't want to say problem, but a thing you have to figure out. And with Indiana, I mean, they didn't get a player back, but they got so many picks, including a first, that it's like, I think it's cool.